Hello everybody and welcome to the latest episode of the Viking Chats, and I'm delighted to be joined today by none other than Steve Eakins of Lumon. So for those who don't know Lumon, they are a property-focused, property-orientated brokerage for funds.
That's right, we're a currency broker, so we help people move money around the world around property transactions. Exactly.
So for those who aren't familiar with Lumon, Steve, let's just start with a little bit of background. So let's start with you personally. How long have you kind of been in the wonderful world of currency transactions?
I think I'm about employee 19-ish. So I've been there for nearly 2 decades, and we're 25 years old. And when I walked into the business, the size of the business was about the same kind of size of people upstairs. Yeah. It was teeming. But now we're recently celebrated 25 years. We're 200 people nearly across nearly 10...
200?
200.
Wow.
Across nearly 10 offices throughout Europe. So not teeny. We transact around 25 million a day. So this year we'll be hopefully breaching the 10 billion, which sounds ridiculous.
Wow.
But we do a lot of moving money around the world. And a lot of it is property centric. And our kind of industry playground initially was very much Europe, because that was the epicenter of the Brits buying abroad. We'll probably get into why that's all bloody changed recently. But as a result, like we're the biggest in France, probably second in Spain, hopefully the first next year. Biggest in Portugal. So out there you'll see us on billboards, you hear us on the radio, you'll see us in the papers. There's a dozen buses going around Spain with our brand on, which made me laugh this summer when we had a lot of agents in the UK kind of go for a break, go for a holiday, and then they send me a picture going, have you got an office in Villamora? Yeah. Oh, right. Have you got an office in... We're pretty big in Europe. Yeah. So
England's the new one.
They find me out there. But yeah, we do a lot around it. And I've been there for a long time with a lot of our partners, because a lot of our clients come to us. 9 out of 10 come from an introduction.
Nice.
So it's all around that kind of ecosystem around a client making a move. So I've done it in France, Spain, Portugal, loads of different industries and sectors. So.
And how's that growth happened? You've just launched cold offices in each country each time, or?
Pretty much, yeah. So it's going in and working with the ecosystem, the people around the people, really. So setting up offices, getting good people in it. We'll get in-country teams, bilingual teams, in-country banking and all the normal bits for it. And then promote it out to the client. So we're a B2B2C model. Yeah. So direct through agents traditionally, or wealth managers, visas, lawyers, solicitors, bankers. We get banks refer us in Europe, which I always find a bit peculiar. Yeah. But there you go. We'll happily.
We could do this, but talk to these guys. I mean, if that's not a good validation, I don't know what is.
That's useful, right? And then I've come into the UK, and doing more and more in the UK as a focus point for the last kind of 18 months.
So really, the UK operation has really primarily just been the last kind of 18 months, 2 years.
Pretty new. So I normally say, like, a lot of agents don't even know our industry exists. Yeah. So a lot of it is, actually, we're a bit bigger than you are. Yes. And then equally, them understanding of what we do and where we fit and what the values are from an agent's perspective. And the two big assumptions I get is, I've got you. I know where you are. This is probably a London thing. I'm not in London, so I won't do it. Well, we actually do more with agents in Wales than we do agents in London. Wow. And the other one that people get a lot of is the assumption that, okay, I've got you. I know what you do. I'll let you know when I get my next Chinese or Singaporean or Hong Kong inquiry. And I go, yeah, please. But actually, at the moment, the way that wealth is moving, everyone's leaving. So 4 out of 5 of the clients I'm introduced to through the UK are actually vendors leaving. So quite useful. But from an agent's perspective, why they like it is standing out from the rest of the high street, because they're doing something different. I can give you some numbers on how many people are moving in and out of the country, because this normally shocks a lot of people. But ultimately, without all the fancy, shiny stuff that we do, we provide, or we aim to offer, a better rate and a better service than that of the banks. So if an agent's got an international buyer, if we're introduced, we can increase their offer. Yeah. If you've got a vendor that's leaving, and there's a lot of them at the moment, in this price-sensitive market we're all dealing with in the UK, it means that we can get vendors to accept lower offers, because even though it's a lower offer, it might actually get them more euros, more dollars.
And look, I think for any good agent, whether you're sales or lettings, you've got to be looking at elements that make your transaction smoother. Yeah. where you deliver greater value, and also where potentially you can generate more revenue.
Correct.
Right. And so I think, that it's a bit of a no-brainer, right? It's a bit like partnering with a mortgage lender. You know, if you're a serious sales business, that is an essential part of your business. That's going to be a really and finding. You know, I think the right businesses understand you've got to go and find the right broker that is going to get you decent deals that people want to take up, and that also convert, that don't have, I mean, obviously with mortgages, you've got the valuations and all the conveyancing and everything that goes through that. There's no point partnering with someone with insanely high mortgage rates and massive commission if no one ever wants their product.
Correct.
And they always downvalue properties.
Comes into when the agents are talking to the vendors around offers. You know, the top offer isn't always the best.
And it's about building your profile. It's about that expertise, right? It's about going, you know what, I'm sure you've spoken to your own bank, or you might have your wealth manager or whoever it is who's advised you on the mortgage, but look, we really rate this guy. I mean, we closed our sales department about 5 years ago. We're exclusively lettings and property management now, but we have a fantastic mortgage broker that we've worked with, I would say probably for about 15 years. And actually we don't take a penny from him. He's just bloody brilliant. We got introduced to him through our network when Anne was looking to buy a property. And he was just bloody brilliant. And then I ended up buying, at the time, a 17th century timber framed house with no foundations, that was practically unlivable. It wasn't derelict, and it was a probate, been empty for nearly 10 years, been on the market for 5. And there had been...
So what classes as a project home?
I think there was like 8 sales that had fallen through on it over the years. And he came along and we made an offer, it got accepted, and the deal got done. You know, and it was really interesting actually. The agent who sold the property to us was like, who is this guy? And I was like, look, I don't know if he pays referrals, but he's good. And over the years we've referred him, and it's not always about commercial gain. I was like, look, if you can leverage that, and with Andrew, we never had the volume where we felt that was a conversation worth having. For us, it was just someone in our corner who, if a client got stuck or needed some advice, they were a great...
proper value-adding partner, rather than someone that respectively still cares about the family and asks about the weekend, but adds true value.
Yeah.
And that's what, in our space, we're kind of like, from a UK perspective, what I say to a lot of agents is we're kind of like property staging was 5 years ago. Or presenter-led video was 5 years ago. And now everyone either knows about it and is doing it, or kind of knows they probably should be considering it.
Yeah, it's all the elements.
We're the next wave of it, because there's so much more movement of people and money for all the political reasons. But to give an idea, last year, about 100 completions a day happened when the funds were leaving.
Wow.
And this year it's even accelerating more with all the millionaires leaving, which are property orientated. They're not bank account millionaires, they're people selling up. So there's 300 millionaires a week leaving, 300 a week leaving. And agents just aren't necessarily asking the question. And when they do, they go, oh, right, okay. Well, here's how we can differentiate, here's how we can stand out, here's how we can add some more value.
And again, it's all part of that service, right? It's solving that problem for the customer. It's another thing they don't have to concern themselves about. It's another thing that's just
How many times do agents have to ring around the solicitors on completion day? Where's the funds? Try and do that international, a whole another matrix of variable. Working with a partner that can help with that gives it the visibility. But it comes to that price, service and value add. And then it's all the other bits, because, well, if you're interested, we get lots of people leaving. Yeah. And generally the top, across any price point, the destination country that everyone's going to is still Spain.
Interesting.
So last year, 9,000 Brits apparently bought over there. Second, even I got wrong.
Which is interesting given all the kind of scaremongering legislation that Spain kept on.
Yep.
Kind of, I mean, they didn't implement quite a bit of it, but they did try to scare the market with,
second homes and things. Last year was a massive political year around the world. Every country pretty much has got a new government in place, and all of them made promises to get in, and that's part of the Spanish thing. Equally, the golden visas in Portugal, that was all a whole talk point in the media around golden visas going off. Yes, they turned their cheapest one off, but there's still another 25 different visas you can get with golden visas. So But yeah, Spain is the most popular from a vendor's destination perspective across any price point. But then if you're talking mid-market up, so £500,000 plus, the destination standout is still Dubai now. So everyone going to Dubai for reasons. And then if you're over 55, or the client, if you've got a vendor moving abroad and is over 55, the top location is the Caribbean. But it's all dollar nominated.
Yeah.
So here's a stat for you, the power of currency, which people go, I've got it. If an agent has a property on the market now that they listed 5 months ago, and they know the vendor is moving to Dubai, the US, the Middle East, or the Caribbean, all US nominated, the vendor could take a 5% price reduction.
You could leverage the shift in currency rates
and still get the same amount of dollars as they would have done. So these are the stories that I should probably put on.
Which of course then you've also still got to then correspond that to what's happening in the market over there, right? Because
correct.
If you get the same amount of money, that doesn't help you if the market there has shifted up 5%. But equally, if the market there has shifted down 5%, you've got another 5% to play with.
We get this a lot with the agents that we do most with, that will see the angle, who have importantly asked their question on their offer letter or their MA or vow letter. They ask the questions: where are the funds coming from? What's happening? Do you need a solicitor, a mortgage, all the other
What's
bits?
It for? What are you going to spend it on? Where are you going?
Or your wider finance, so you're moving money internationally. Really easy safety net. But we get quite a few agents that will come to us and go, I've got this really good cash buyer. It's got no chain, but he's offering below the asking price. But we know this vendor's moving to Europe. And I go, great, okay, give me the numbers. Okay, right. Go to them and say, this is a great offer. It represents the market at the moment. It's cash buyer, no chain. But this below asking price offer actually gets you more euros than if I came to you with a full asking price when we listed the property 6 months ago. And that often ends up with like 2 pages of emojis from the agent. Offer accepted.
But
it's just
it's all about context, right? It's all about context. It's I saw some really interesting content. An agent I love called Location did a little while ago, and it was when the market dipped a little bit. And they got a lot of vendors being a little bit touchy, being like, "Oh, but I don't want to reduce my price because that's what I've established. I need to buy my next property." And it was like, yeah, but what you're forgetting is that the whole market has dropped that 5%. So yes, you're going to get 5% less, but the property you're going to buy is 5% less. So it's all context, whether you're talking price or exchange or mortgage rates or whatever. I mean, again, I always find it really interesting, we touched on, mortgage brokers being an important part of the business. I've worked in businesses before and see people before where they're really quite anxious about having that conversation. Like, oh no, I've spoken to them, they've spoken to their bank, they're fine. And it's like, dude, you save them 0.5%. And you write down and you explain to them what that 0.5% actually means. They'll very quickly have a chat with your mortgage broker.
We did one relatively recent ago, and it was a buyer. So we talked about the vendor option, but you're still getting lots of buyers coming over.
Yeah.
And at the moment, that matrix is changing with Labour, and there's no more Middle Eastern factory laps going around London. There's quite a
lot of Indians coming over at the moment, and Americans.
So Americans represent about 16% of the market.
I wonder why. I can't. Yeah.
But if you've got Americans, extra pair of white gloves if the inquiry comes in. A few stories on this. So I had 2 clients, and I get introduced to 1 or 2 Americans a day at the moment. So a lot coming in. And 2 last month that I know of personally that we were introduced to when the agent received the inquiry. I want to have a look at this property when I'm over. Can we arrange it? And they went, yep, but you need to speak to Steve and the currency angle. Made the intro. And before these 2 clients landed in the UK, we'd already done their currency transfer.
Nice.
We already had their pounds. So it meant that the agent knew, highly qualified,
and
highly
very
motivated,
serious.
And very serious because we had their money.
Yeah, because you don't whack $1 million or 2 over unless you're.
But going back to that price point, we also had Americans who they were negotiating final point, and it was on a relatively multi-million-pound purchase.
Yeah.
And it was down to the last 0.5%, and neither buyer or vendor wanted to move. And probably a lot of people watching can relate to this. A bit annoying from an agent's perspective, but they realised that the American was obviously moving funds over. So you need to speak to Steve. On that first phone call, we were able to increase their offer by 1.5% because of the saving we could offer over the bank. All of a sudden, negotiation broken, deal done. Just by recognising, asking the conversation, it happened in the space of half an hour, and deal done. And equally, no, I didn't give them 0.5% more for the like 1.5%.
But I think
full saving.
It's really important. It's really interesting talking about this because I think with agency, and again, it doesn't matter. I mean, obviously, we're talking a lot about sales, but it doesn't really matter. Sales are lettings. I think as a frontline agent, you can get so blinkered and bogged down with the transactional element, the bit that you facilitate, and you've got to be able to take that step back and look at it as an entirety, like you said, and look at the different elements that could impact the success or fail of that. And like you said, access to funds, lending, aspirations, what that money is for, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, we've also had interesting conversations with people before where we've had, I remember years ago, we had a landlord we were working with who came to us, and I think we'd been looking after his property for about 5 years. And what we felt out of the blue was he went, I'm going to sell. We were like, oh, okay, seems a bit sudden. And it was like, why? And he's like, my son's getting married and we really want to give them a big wedding gift. We want to give them a deposit for a house. And it was like, cool, okay. And it was like, and what about the rest of the money? Because this was probably, I'm going to guess it was probably somewhere around 450 grand at the time. And they had no mortgage. They'd bought it 20 years ago for like 60 grand. Yeah. They were home and dry. And it was like, but it was an investment property, so capital gains tax.
Yep.
Liability, and it was again about just having that conversation, because what we very quickly realised was actually they were only planning on giving about 80 to 100 grand to their son and daughter-in-law. And they had no plan or aspirations of what to do with that other 350 grand. Obviously, they were going to face a substantial council tax, capital gains tax bill on that. And then we're also faced with kind of, what the hell do we do with this money? And again, talking through it, we were like, well, why don't you do like 125 grand remortgage? Yeah. Release that equity, give your son that 100 grand, spend the 25 grand refurbishing the property because it was dated.
Yep.
And so we did a complete refit of the property, and the uplift we generated in rent by doing the refurb paid the monthly remortgage cost. So he still got the same net income. Yeah. The son got the amazing wedding present. And they held on to that property for like another decade. So again, it's you've got to have those conversations.
Pulling back the onion and working out what's going on.
You've got to have that conversation.
We get a lot with people who are selling their second homes in Europe and bringing the money back to the UK. I often hear on the trading floor people making a joke. Where are we selling these pounds to now? Are we selling it to the Ferrari dealership or the Porsche dealership? And everyone laughs it off. And we go, no, really, what are you planning on doing? And they're like, maybe this. And we kind of go, well, Google or ChatGPT doesn't count as wealth planning. You probably want to speak to someone around this, don't you? Like, yeah, please. Yeah. Okay, right. But if you don't ask the question, you don't get it. And it's another way of standing up from everyone else and adding that value that people will remember.
Yeah, and I think it's just about being comfortable with getting the no's, right? Just like you'll get a no as an agent, there will be people who absolutely categorically don't want to have that conversation with you. They'll look at you like you're overreaching and be like, I'm not having that chat with you. I just want you to sell my house. But equally, there will be those people, and again, we've all had them, where, they'll lay it all out for you. They'll tell you absolutely what their aspirations are and what they want to do and what their concerns are and everything else. And I think it makes a really exciting opportunity. So
agents get it. Yeah.
Have those conversations, people, and think about the opportunities. And like I said, it's not necessarily about making more money, but delivering more value. Because who's that person going to send their mate to when they're like, oh, actually, I'm thinking about moving to the UK and buying. And
asking the question, you can do it at the early part, but it's a sizable part of the market now. It's 2-3% of completions are exposed from a vendor's moving, and that's only accelerating. So
look, we wanted to talk about that because I mean, you've already casually thrown out some pretty alarming numbers there. So let's talk about this apparent exodus, because I have an element of cynicism to it, because I think I've got some thoughts on the other side, but you've thrown some out already, but let's just circle back to that. So you were saying, what were some of those stats you threw out? Was it 100 transactions? So
the data that comes out of Rightmove is, last year it was kind of 33,000 Brits bought abroad.
Yeah.
That's who's selling their property to. It's not second homers.
Yeah.
And that equates to around 100 completions a day when the money's going over. The report this year, which got a lot of press, was the Henley and Partners Wealth Report, which was suggesting that 16,500 millionaires were going to leave the UK. So the biggest exodus of wealth out of the UK for all the reasons.
And is there data to back that?
Yeah, they've backed it off to other data points and bits and pieces from it. But that's 300 a week. But even if you take the grabbing press multiplier off it, I'd highlight that there's more people leaving at the moment than people probably are thinking.
But so my main question about this.
Yeah.
They're selling those homes to someone though, right?
Correct.
So who's buying those homes?
Correct.
So we're not necessarily losing wealth.
No.
Or capital generation, because I know that is a concern. I think, my thing when you read a lot of this, there's a lot of headlines around this, and if you choose to move to a country with appalling human rights because you get a really low tax rate, good on you. Desert's not where I want to live. Mm-hmm. But no, I think there's a really interesting, and I don't want to drift into anything too political, because nobody needs that right now. There's enough political noise out there right now. But from a kind of entrepreneurial economy, et cetera, kind of balance. I mean, with you guys, with where you sit, are you seeing as much money coming in as going out? Is there a relative proximity? I mean, you've touched on the fact that what we're seeing at the moment, probably the two dominant nations coming in are India and America, and you've already said your big market is Europe. So not that you don't trade in those areas.
From a UK side and data and what we look at, we're definitely seeing more people leaving than coming in. Yeah. Internationals coming into the UK, the makeup of that has changed as a result of the concern around wealth tax and what this might be on budget, which is 30 odd days away now. So we'll hopefully rip the plaster off and see what that looks like later. But as a result of that, who's coming in? The internationals coming in, data a few years ago from Knight Franks and from Hamptons was suggesting that 2020, I think the data was that it was 6-7% of buyers were international. Now this year you're looking at 1%. So the amount of international buyers coming into the UK is reduced. Who's coming in? It's not the Middle Easterns as much, it's not the rich Europeans, it's the Americans and the Indians, and other nationalities are more of a share. The data from Hamptons International's Q1 2025 was 16% of the internationals coming in were American.
But if we're seeing less international buyers coming in, but these transactions are still happening, then that suggests that there's a greater growth of wealth within the UK.
Oh, well, we've got more. The data says that more people are leaving than coming in.
Yeah.
But equally, to your point, who's buying the properties then? Because there's a buyer and a seller.
Because that's the thing, right? If these people were leaving the country and being like, oh, well, I'll just leave the asset there. You deal with the uber wealthy who are like, what's a couple of million? I'd argue that's more of a concern. But if they're actually transacting, someone's buying it, right? Someone's got access to cash or finance.
Everyone listening to this has probably been in the property market for a while. We know normally it's driven by the 4Ds. And over the last couple of years, we know we've had those catalysts around COVID and Brexit and other events that have pulled forward those moves, or people relocating to the countryside for more space or moving up and all those bits. So that's part of the narrative in the UK market at the moment, of it being very price sensitive and sticky as to who's buying at the moment. And I have this conversation quite frequently of, we're now the month we are coming up to budget period, end of November, then December and festive period. Are we allowed to say that we can be more optimistic for next year? Because I kind of feel like I don't want to say that. I don't want to say that again, because we've said that the last couple of years, right? And
but interesting, like transaction volumes. I know from the data that Zoopla often shares with us at the board meetings I attend to, transaction volumes are pretty sturdy though. I mean, we're sitting around more or less around that kind of 1 million transactions a year, which is kind of generally considered a pretty healthy transaction volume. You know, I think when we're in recessions and tough markets, you know, that typically dips by 20% or more. You know, dip under 800,000, you've got a problem. You know, bullish markets, you know, cap out at about 1.2. So you've got that kind of 20% flip either side. But we're very much sat in and around that million transaction volume kind of marketplace. So,
and with the data you get from Zoopla Access of 1 million, do you see that there is data backing up the fact that there's more transactions at the bottom of the market or mid or top?
To be fair, in the board meetings, because we're a lettings board, the sales data is quite light.
Headline.
Yeah, it's kind of, yeah, exactly. It's the headline before we dive into the more granular Zoopla reports. But we always touch on it. You know, we've got senior people in the room who are always quite intrigued to see what those big data sets are, which are far more relevant to a business like theirs than they are to a business like ours. But you know, it's interesting seeing that, you know, and then you see the hyperbole that we have within the marketplace around everything from tax changes to market to political landscape to tax and everything else. But like I said, transactionally, it suggests that, yes, we've got all these pressures and changes and everything else, but the market is actually still kind of ticking along. Still flowing, still changing.
Transactional numbers are in range of a normal period.
Yeah. Now, let's see what the autumn budget does in a few days and see if that can absolutely blow the last quarter out the water and turn it into a slightly more difficult market. But, I mean, again, if we're seeing, you know, even with this exodus, if we're still seeing a good volume of transactions and we're still seeing those people transacting and selling to leave, which means someone's buying, it's just about understanding the nuances of that market, right? It's about changing habits, the changing profiles.
These are things that agents can't control, but being in front of it means that you can adapt to it quicker than everyone else and be more successful as a result to follow the transactional pattern.
Brings us back to this whole thing about looking at opportunities, whether that's revenue or just unique attitudes that you take that you know will help you deliver more transactions and more reliable transactions, or, you know, greater value to your clients.
Protecting those international sales is the thing that people normally look at first. Amount of times I speak to and visit new agencies who are new to it, didn't know we existed. We have a chat and I go, come on, just do me a favour, just pull your pipeline out. And I remember this vividly. I was in this office and this lady brought out this beautifully presented, all colour-coded sales thing. I was like, oh, okay, you've got a lot of time on your hands. This is beautiful.
Yeah.
This is like, I think I've got a few on the whiteboard over there. But anyway, I was like, okay, well, that looks like a French name. Are they French? Oh yeah, they're going to France. I was like, okay, right, let's go through. And in the space of 5 minutes,
they don't spend British pounds in France.
Yeah, with that, we found 5 or 6 opportunities on there where they had live vendors that they knew were moving abroad in the pipeline already. And you kind of, well, one breath you're saying you're struggling and need more revenue, and the next thing, well, you haven't even asked.
Well, do you know what? Again, I mean, lettings. So you know, you look at lettings. London dominated. Huge marketplace in the London in terms of homes, in terms of marketplace. Roughly a third of all letting agents are based in London, which is quite an astonishing figure when you think about it.
Yep.
But when you also, I mean, when I look, you know, this is literally making my brain tick because I'm all there thinking about, oh yeah, you need to look about how you deliver value. This is not a conversation we typically have with our landlords. I would estimate that a third of our landlords are either NRLs, non-resident landlords, or they are actually foreign investor landlords. And the vast majority of that income, I know a handful of them keep the revenue in the UK because they come over regularly and they use it for family and friends and whatever. But the vast majority of those clients will be transferring that money abroad.
Well, here's something else that most people... So when we're moving money around for clients in our industry, you do it via what's called a spot contract, which is basically a buy now, pay now option. But another increasingly popular one at the moment is technically called a forward contract, which is a buy now, pay later option. So it allows them to lock in the exchange rate, i.e. avoid the moving variable of X not equaling Y later, or X not equaling X later, so they know what the cost is going to be.
Yeah.
So we use that a lot, or that gets used a lot by landlords that are getting an income, and it's not like the market's standing still. That's the other thing to consider. So we've talked about our industry is to help protect those international sales, give clients more money, which enables the agent to help with it. But equally, it's the currency market moving so much can really risk a pipeline. So let me give you some numbers here. So when I first started, if the market moved by 0.5% in the currency market, the bells would ring. It would be on the front of the FT the next day. Big news. Whereas now, if we see it 3 days a week, it's a quiet week. It's moved 0.5% this morning on the inflation data.
Yeah.
When you're talking about an agent protecting a sale and negotiating, that 0.5% can make a hell of a difference.
And I think it's again, I think it's really interesting us having this conversation because the default mindset is around sales.
Again, another American, I'm afraid, but I was introduced to an American earlier on this year, and I really like this one. It's one of my favourite stories of the year because they were rebuying their family home down on the south coast.
Nice.
Just up from Sandbanks. Lovely. Introduced when the offer was accepted back in April. Their budget didn't have too much space in. So, Trump's doing a lot of trade tariff conversations. There's a bit of risk here. You could do this, you could do that, you could do this. They decided to do a risk off. So they did that forward contract, the buy now, pay later option. So they locked in the exchange rate. All their money was locked in investments and things, so they needed some time to get out. But they locked in the exchange rate for the completion, which I think was end of July.
And so I presume you guys just pre-purchase at that rate. They're contracted.
Yeah, correct. So there's no risk there. It's fine. Yeah. They're contracted to it, correct. But we did the maths at the time of completion, say end of June. It was beginning of July, one of the two. And if they had bought their pounds then, rather than in April when we were introduced, it would have cost them an additional $180,000. The pound to dollar rate has varied by over 16% this year.
Wow.
10% difference odd now from the beginning of the year. But 16%, $180,000 difference. You put that to, first off, the client was exceptionally happy.
Yeah.
I got a very nice bottle of something, which is I think I'm on their Christmas card list. The agent was very happy and ecstatic because obviously if that sale had fallen through, we all know how hard business is. Never mind.
Yeah, and if they're making that sort of sale, that was a serious property. That was a serious sales fee.
Correct. Yeah. So they protected that fee. They earned a bit from us, obviously from the introduction. But the client's happy, the agent's ecstatic. We're happy days.
But it's again, it's about opening up that mindset, right? It's easy for me to kind of look at sales, like I said, which we don't do, and be like, hey guys, you've got to be thinking about these different pieces in the puzzle. But we're sat here talking about this, and I'm literally like, how have we never had this conversation with our non-resident landlords? How have we never sat down we
haven't been talking for too long, but yeah, 18
no, but with all
I'm an educator point on this is something that's happening. This is a big thing. Here's a problem that you're not even aware that's yours, but it's partly yours because it risks sales. Because equally, I've just told you that lovely story. The amount of times I get introduced to clients on the day of completion, and the agent is asking me to pull a rabbit out of the hat. Like, I can't say this, mate. I can't do it.
Yeah,
it's not going to add up, and I get clients crying down the phone at me because X doesn't equal X anymore, and the sale's fallen through as a result of.
And like you said, you need to have that run-in to be able to advise them and be like, with what we think's going to happen in the market, now's a good time to lock it in, or vice versa.
What's the risk to reward ratio? How do you want to do it? Do you want to do some now, all of it now, none of it now? And asking the difficult.
Well, again, so on lettings, right? We talk a lot about the pressure placed on landlords at the moment, and generally around funds. So obviously, Section 24 was a huge one, and how that impacts people. But generally, compliance and agency fees and everything else. There's been so much talk recently about the pressure put on landlords and their margins, and yet, like I said, I would estimate that roughly a third of our clients would benefit from, or potentially benefit from a currency exchange service that delivers results. And like you said, and I think interestingly, with a lot of our clients, what we also find as well is, what you've talked about that model of being able to kind of monitor the market a little bit and kind of go with the flow. I would argue that a lot of our clients often, quite rarely, urgently need that money month by month. Yeah. Like they would happily go, well, do you know what, even if we got it paid out like quarterly,
so from a client's perspective,
but we balance that with a
most people use the bank, right? That's still the enemy. And in the nicest of ways, if we couldn't provide a value or a saving, we wouldn't have 200 people on the payroll. So pretty confident we can do it. We just need to have the opportunity and have a fair comparison for it. And then it's managing the currency exposure. When was the last time your bank rang you? Right? So we'll be proactively contacting clients around, this has just happened, this is the impact, this is what's happening next. The world is evolving and changing so quickly at the moment. And that's why we're growing beautifully in demand, because we can add those values and save it. But from back to an agent's perspective, it's, you probably didn't even know my industry existed. Now hopefully you do, and now you spent a minute to go, actually I've got one and maybe I can help. Well, do
you know what, like the only time I have turned to your industry was 10 years ago when I sold my mum's properties in Spain. And I kind of I handled the entire process for her. We relocated her to the UK, but again, went out looking for, and I did shop around and we got a good rate. I think I saved her something like 20 grand at the time.
Wouldn't be surprised.
Or got her 20 grand more by finding the right partner to do that with. But yeah, it's fascinating, the psychology, because like I said, I did that, but it was a very personal transaction. When we did sales, which we did for 20 years, never had that conversation. And in the 25 years we've done lettings, we have never once thought that might be an interesting conversation of value. So we're definitely going to be sharing this podcast with our landlords. I think what I'm going to be doing off the back of this, I'm going to identify the top 3 countries our landlords live in, and drop you a little email.
All I'm saying is just ask the question and see it there, because it's, beforehand it was small, now it's getting bigger. Now it's not humongous. This isn't a service that's going to be for every client that you deal with as an agent. However, the one that it does, it could lose that sale if you're not talking about it anymore, because the market's moving so much.
Well, like you said, it will. I see our clients potentially taking a bigger play with this, because if there are substantial changes, and like I said, there are a decent swathe of our landlords where they don't urgently need that money. So I think we will see a growing number of landlords go, do you know what? We're talking to Lumon. We're monitoring the market. Now's not a good time. We'll just let that money pool in our UK bank account, and
let me know when it
6
gets
months
to
from now, 8 months from now, when it hits that.
Put these rate alerts in, the spike notifications, all those tools there to help make the money work harder for you.
And if you can potentially boost your income by 5-10% by doing nothing other than just waiting, if you've got that ability, then wow, what a great way to run your business. Oh, look, I mean, that was...
Well, there you go.
Slightly blown my mind. I'm sat here like, Jesus Christ, I'm about to go on holiday on Monday. You've just given me another ton of work I've got to try and facilitate within the next 3 days.
You'll be surprised how many clients thank you for bringing it up. It'll be a problem that you haven't shared with them, but it'll be a problem that clients have.
Well, like I say, Andrew, our mortgage broker, I mean, we've introduced him over the years to a lot of landlords, are the accountants that we use. They are our go-to accountants. We have no revenue agreement with them at all. They're just fantastic at what they do, and they're really lovely. And again, we've referred lots of clients to them. So yeah, it's all about ticking those little boxes. But then we also know we've got this ecosystem where we can depend on the fact that the advice they get is going to generally be of a certain standard and level. And if there is, if it does fall into a grey area, then, you've got that relationship to be like, so talk me through this little bit of advice. Because that's like the opposite of what I told the client. But no, I think, again, and I think for any property business, the more you can make your clients and customers rely on you, the more you can become that kind of soothsayer of property, whether it's mortgages, insurance.
Local expert, the marketplace for everything property.
Then what better position to be in? Because guess what? That conversation at the dining table, that, on the sun lounge or on holiday, whatever, when someone's I've got this problem, I've got that problem. If you can be that one single source of, if you can have someone going, do you know what? I went to these guys to let my property or to sell my property, but since then they've sorted this, they've sorted that, and they've done this, and then I've just gone back to them to do that. Those are the conversations you want your clients and customers to be having around the dining table. That when they're talking to their mate or their colleague or whatever, he's like, "Oh my God, it's doing my nut in." And to be like, just call these people, let them talk to you, tell them what's going on, and they will help you navigate your way through it. And it's that kind of all-encompassing, holistic kind of attitude to property is never going to do you bad. So talk to me about you in London, Steve, because so you were based over in Europe before?
No, so we're UK earned and settled and placed in the UK, but we're regulated in Europe, the UK and the US, so I've now got more people in compliance than I have in marketing, which is good fun. But I did so much work in France. I've got 2 kids, 2 girls who have both got French names because I did so much work over in France. So so we're UK based, not that far away from here, over in Farringdon, where we've got about 140 people on a full day.
Well, we came down to your lovely offices. You hosted a fantastic little supplier meet, which is where we properly met for the first time. But yeah, no, that was a good little get together. And do you own in the UK or you rent?
Me, I'm in the UK. Personally, I own my home. So I'm outside of London in the home counties. Picked a little village which had the right ratio: 2 kids, 2 schools, 6 pubs. Yeah. 2 kids, 2 schools, 6 pubs.
Yeah.
Sorry, a bit too much personality coming through there, but yeah, good ratio for where we've ended up, which is nice. So yeah, enjoy that with a couple of.
And how old are your kids?
I've got a 9 and a 6. 9-year-old and a 6-year-old. So both girls, outnumbered. I was fully prepared as a dad for my 9-year-old to become teening. But what I wasn't prepared for, that my 6-year-old, who's got no biologically excuse, is mirroring her sister. So I've got like 1.5 teeny girls. My 9-year-old this week, we've just got her her first knee-high, she wants knee-high boots for Christmas, high-heel boots. For Soda Pop, which is like modern day Spice Girls.
Yeah.
For those
K-pop
kids, yeah, K-pop.
K-pop Demon Hunters.
That's it, yeah. So she's now sleeping in high heel shoes, but
amazing.
all part of the fun, right?
Yeah. My 8-year-old daughter delightfully threw the absolute biggest tantrum in the school playground this morning out of absolutely nowhere. It was joyous, so much fun, so much fun. And then I've got a 4-year-old boy who. Yeah, I mean, I'm increasingly referring to him as the cretin because he's the most gorgeous and cheeky little rascal, but Jesus Christ, the joys of parenthood, Good fun. I think we've kind of talked some really good points there. So, look, if it don't matter if you're sales or lettings, I think what we've uncovered today is no matter how long you've been doing this, no matter how long you've been doing the game, no matter how long you think you've covered all the houses, we all could do with looking at our business and thinking broader. Clearly this is potentially a massive jigsaw piece for pretty much any estate agency business out there. So hopefully some good things for you guys to think about here. If you want to find out more, Lumon.com?
LumonPay.com is the website.
LumonPay, Lumon, LumonPay.com.
Easiest way to find me is probably on Instagram nowadays. When I first started it, I used to get referrals via fax machine. Now I get them via Instagram. Feel free to find me. Just search Steve Currency and I come up at the top. Steve Currency. Yeah,
there we go. Find Steve on Insta or go to lumonpay.com and find out a bit more. Reach out. As you can see, very easy to talk to. No waffly bollocks. Just real, genuine expertise and insight. So, dude, thanks for coming in. See you guys again soon. Bye.